Welcome back to the Secular Homeschool Revolution podcast. I am Ashley, your host, and this is the space for BIPOC progressive homeschoolers who are raising socially conscious, justice-oriented kids, allies. You are welcome here as long as you're here to listen and learn. Today, we're going, because it is Black History Month still, we're going to dive in on how to build a Black Panther Party unit study, and with the focus of mutual aid. I'm thinking that the way we did it is that it's going to be geared for middle schoolers, and I think you can differentiate it for upper elementary. So hopefully it's something that you can use in your own homeschooling journey. And remember, Black History is year-round. It isn't limited to this month, and it's even more important to celebrate Black history year-round because there is a current erasure on the culture. So whether you are a BIPOC person, a Black person, a Black family, or an ally, these conversations should continue to happen past February. The Black Panther Party gets a bad rap because they're often portrayed in history in a very ugly way, that they're enemies of the U.S. government, that they're thugs, they're violent gangsters, and it's not mentioned about their grassroots activism, their ability to offer free breakfast programs, healthcare clinics, and educations to the communities they served. And this is a powerful example of grassroots activism. I think a good book to read that really talks about it is One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams-Garcia. The characters are visiting their people in California, so they get an up-close look at the Black Panther Party. Again, that is called One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams-Garcia. My kids personally really enjoyed the book. But back to today's episode, we're going to walk through a unit study that highlights their contributions and how we can teach our kids about social justice and community care. Let's build out our framework. So our framework is basically the goal of the information we want our kids to obtain. So first, I wanted my kids to understand the Black Panther Party's role in community empowerment. Next, I would like them to be able to define mutual aid as a tool for social change. And next, can be able to compare and contrast mutual aid with current government assistance programs. And last, I want them to be able to hold a conversation, to be able to discuss how similar efforts exist today and how students can engage in mutual aid, for them to understand that they're not too young to make a social impact. I personally believe a great way to introduce any topics will always be through discussion, and see what information they have, any front load information that they may have, any questions they might have about said topic. So for this unit study, I started my discussion around what does mutual aid mean? And they were able to give their, information, their guess, their ideas. And then I asked them, what is the difference between mutual aid and charity? And the last part of our discussion was around how do communities take care of each other when the government doesn't step in? I come from a family, my mom is really big on mutual aid and community empowerment. She, would be the house that helped feed others. Like when my friends' families didn't have food, or it was looking a little scarce, or utilities weren't turned on, they were at my house. And several times she ran a community closet where, they would pick up food and clothing donations. And she did this because she was really passionate about it. And seeing her do that, seeing her model it, has definitely impacted the way I live my life and how I look at mutual aid and community work. And so my kids have had access to that. So it was interesting to see what their perspective of what they've known me and my mom to do. So some resources you can use to help gate or to like build out your discussions is Revolutionary Acts, the Black Panther Party's community programs by Judy Tzu-Chun and Gwendolyn Mink. I think this book does a really good job of dissecting the social programs that were created by the Black Panther Party. And the second book that we used, and this was for like the elementary style because it was an illustrated book and it had, really powerful photographs, is The Power to the People, The World of the Black Panthers by Stephen Shames and Bobby Seale. Video references that we used at that time was the Black Panthers Vanguard of the Revolution. Again, it was produced by PBS. I know recently PBS's funding has been restricted. I know PBS had to roll back their DEI programming. And I do think PBS is doing what they need to do to try to survive this and whatever this chaos is. But this particular documentary, when we watched it, was available on YouTube. That was about 2.5 weeks ago. So I'm not, the world is evolving and going through a lot of mess. So I'm not sure if it still is available on YouTube, but it's called Black Panthers, the Vanguard of the Revolution. And it was produced by PBS and it came out in 2016. So discussion questions I used for this particular video was just to see if they were retaining any of the information and if they were able to like build out complete thoughts around it. So what were some of the main community programs that the Black Panther Party created and how did they specifically help people? 2, how did the media portray the Black Panther Party compared to what you learned in the documentary? 3, why do you think the government opposed some of the Black Panther Party's programs? 4, how do you see mutual aid programs working in communities today? Can you think of any modern examples? Can you think of any relevant examples? And 5, what can we learn from the Black Panther Party's approach to solving community problems? So, a hands-on activity we did is we did a mutual aid mapping. So we did research mutual aid groups that are local in our area and mapped out the services that they provided for the community. And so my girls are both working on creating it as a resource to share with other people. They're designing it in Canva. So I do think that is really cool. So in case our plan is that we're going to print them out and put them in our pockets in case we come across anybody who's in need. They don't have to do too much research. That information will be easily accessible to them. The activity that I wanted to do that we just didn't get a chance to do was creating a chart, a compare and contrast chart where they can analyze the differences between government assistance programs such as SNAP and mutual aid. We may end up doing that, or I might keep this for a co-op class because I think it's really cool. Okay, so let me give you some differentiated learning I did for my younger kid. So me and her looked through The Seeds of Freedom, the peaceful integration of Huntsville, Alabama. And I know that this wasn't directly related to the Black Panther Party. This book does a great job at introducing the idea of activism and grassroots change. And the video I watched with her was the overview of the Black Panther Party on YouTube. It was a very short video that was animated, and I think they got the point of mutual aid across in a very age-appropriate way. And her questions varied a little bit. So I asked her, why do you think it was important for kids to have free breakfast before school? 2, how do you think the people in the community felt about the Black Panther Party's programs? Once she completed her activity about what her community program would be, I then had her illustrate a flyer so that she would be able to get the word out for her said community program. I will share that once I upload and publish this episode because I think it's super cute. Before we conclude this episode, I do want to give some practical ways that how homeschoolers can practice mutual aid and community care. I do believe as homeschoolers, we have a really cool opportunity to build and engage in mutual aid structures that support our communities. So here are a few ways to incorporate these principles in your overall homeschool life. Number one, community resource sharing. Organize a curriculum swap or a lending library for books, educational materials, and supplies to make sure that you ensure all families have access to quality learning resources. And this part has been really heavy on my mind. I know, again, I'm in South Texas. There's a lot of students who are missing from schools because of the current immigration, to the current administration's response to immigration. So kids are not in schools. And how can we brainstorm this? These kids are losing access to their education. Is there a way that we could put out a resource or build a resource? If you have ideas, definitely send me a message, whether it's on TikTok or Instagram, so we could brainstorm it or be thought partners so that we can make sure that these kids who are missing from schools have access to some type of education. Because their parents, I'm sure, aren't prioritizing that. So let's make sure we do our due diligence to make sure these kids don't become invisible and uneducated. Next, homeschool skill sharing. So create a network with parents and kids to exchange knowledge. So one family might be great at math while others are good at music. And I think this will strengthen the community through cooperative learning. And I know it's sometimes really hard, especially for people who are very prideful, to ask for help or assistance. And you may not even necessarily, in retrospect, need the assistance, but it feels good when people in your said community are needed, because one day down the road, you might actually need them. And that barrier is broken, that you can build this level of trust between y'all. Next, meal support programs. So Homeschool Witch, she's on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok. She recently shared a TikTok where she was cooking for another family one night, and then that family cooked for her family another night. So they would take the load off of cooking, at least one night a week. I thought that was really cool. I would do that, but my husband has a lot of food allergies, and I just don't want to put that type of responsibility on another family. But I do think it would be great for others to practice. Next, neighborhood mutual aid groups. So partner with local organizations to collect and distribute essential supplies like hygiene products, groceries, school supplies for families in your area. And the last thing that I think is cool would be youth activism and community engagement. So encourage kids to research local issues, maybe design projects around it, participate in community gardens or some type of volunteer programming so that they're actively contributing to their communities. And when we're embedding mutual aid into our homeschooling practices, we can model collective care and empowerment for our kids. My final thoughts. Teaching about the Black Panther Party through mutual aid helps kids see activism as more than just protesting. I do believe it really shows them the importance of and being purposeful of community care and direct action. And when we're able to adapt this study to different age levels, it empowers our kids to see themselves, no matter the age, as change makers. And I know it is a little bit extra work for people to differentiate the lesson sometimes, but again, if Kari's getting this at 8 and then we revisit it again at 9 and 10, I think that's when the lessons really stick to them. But at each level, they're getting it at their just right comprehension level. And I'd like to hear how you guys are incorporating, any community care or social justice into your homeschooling. Again, you can reach me on the Instagram at Secular_Homeschool Revolution or on TikTok, Secular_Homeschool Mama. I do thank you guys for listening. I know that this episode is a little bit shorter, but I do hope you find it valuable. And if you have any questions regarding this unit study, let me know. And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe, share, and follow. Take care of yourself. Keep revolutionizing education. We are in this together.